I'm getting ready to introduce our wonderful guests, and these are some incredible speakers and coaches. And the first person I want to introduce is we're going to go into Canada, and I would like to introduce the wonderful Jane Atkinson. And Jane, as you introduce yourself, if you can let them know what you do and what is the greatest word of wisdom that you've ever received as it relates to public speaking.
I am a business coach for people who speak for a living. So my goal is to help my clients add zeros to their income. So I wrote a book called The Wealthy Speaker 2.0. I've actually written 5 books, all in the speaking space. And The Wealthy Speaker 2.0 is the one that emerging speakers really can take and consume and learn how to get their speaking business off the ground. What else do you want to know, Josh?
What's the greatest word of wisdom you've ever received as it relates to public speaking?
I think it's got to be authenticity. Authenticity, because when you don't, let's say you see a speaker up on the stage. The first speaker that I ever saw was on PBS. His name was Les Brown. I'm sure none of you know him. and I have seen some of my clients since try to emulate him. And so that lacks a little bit in authenticity, because you need to be yourself. Okay. You can't be somebody else. You need to be yourself. So authenticity is my word.
We're getting ready to travel over to the ATL. My man Stan, the GOAT, Grand Pearson. If you could introduce yourself, let everyone know what you do, and most importantly, what has been your greatest word of wisdom as it relates to becoming a professional speaker. It's on you, Stan.
Thank you so very much, Josh. Great to be here. This panel is amazing. Hey, you said the GOAT. I didn't say it this time. You did. It makes it true. It's more than one person. So now a bunch of people say it. And really quick, to Jane's point, is awesome. Like the whole using your own voicing, being authentic is amazing. So I'm a celebrity mindset consultant, public speaking coach. I help shy folks, or those who perceive themselves as shy, deliver the perfect presentation to get paid talks with what they already know. So if you're like, I have this message, I don't know how to put it together, I'm probably the person that you should lock in with, or at least, connect with on some level. And just happy to be doing that. Been speaking for now 15 years, primarily in the college market, and just love to be able to share messages. And based on that question, to continue to show up, And I'll go, my parents growing up, I listened to a lot of Zig Ziglar. Obviously Les Brown a little bit, but Zig Ziglar, I was the only kid in elementary school that was listening to like the Zig Ziglar jingles. That didn't necessarily make it cool when you're in elementary. People were like, he had jingles? Oh yeah, he did, on cassette. But he had one like obviously talking about don't boil the bullfrog. And there's another one like, get that stinking thinking out of here. And that's literally stuck with me my whole life. I literally haven't heard that. Anyway, so number 1 is to show up. Number 2 is keep that stinking thinking out of here. Appreciate you.
We're moving into Florida, into where I'm at right now. I'm in South Florida, but about an hour and a half away. My good friend Ernesto is here. Ernesto, you're no stranger. You've been to several of these. So if you can introduce yourself, let everyone know exactly what you do and what has been your greatest word of wisdom as it relates to becoming a professional speaker. So
sure. Thanks, Josh. First and foremost, shout out to the whole panel. It's an honor to be here with y'all and be able to share some wisdom with everybody. So thank you for the opportunity. Secondly, my name's Ernesto Mejia Macias. If you can't roll your R's like I can, call me what my kindergarten through 6th grade teachers called me, Ernesto Mejia. Same dude. I'll be here for the day, hanging out with y'all. I am part of the Cool Speak family. That is the name of our company and our organization. We work with middle school, high school, college, parents, educators that serve them, as well as corporate. For me, it's something that I've been doing because somebody pushed me towards it. There's going to be 2 things that you notice from me before the day's over. 1, I comb my hair just for this event. 2, I am very straightforward, direct, and honest. I didn't wake up and say, this was a calling and I knew it and I felt it from day 1 and it was going to happen. Somebody kind of pushed me this way and it kind of worked out, and it's been working out well. So I stuck around because I discovered a passion and a calling. Okay. So just keeping it real. In terms of my advice or suggestion to you, the one thing, speak from your heart, speak your truth, and keep it real. And the true Hispanic that I am, don't go with telenovela soap opera just because it's going to sound good on stage. Speak your truth, be honest, speak from the heart. Nobody else can speak your truth more than you can. There you have it, brother. Thank you for having me.
We're moving back up the East Coast into North Carolina. I call him the marketing genius, Mr. Odell Bizzell, the man. Represent yourself. Let us know your name. Let us know where you're from, what you do. And Odell, what is the one word of wisdom that you have for people that aspire to be future speakers?
It's just great to see everybody doing this virtually. I'm sure we're going to be doing something in person eventually. But my name is Odell Bizzell. I hail from North Carolina. And I guess in a sentence or so, what I do, I help subject matter experts and celebrities get 5-figure contracts in the college space. I've been in the college space for a while. You know, Josh, Ernesto, Stan, you know, we've all met at conferences and different things like that. So been in the game for about 8 years full time. Excited about it. Word of wisdom, gosh, there's so many. I would say in the scope of this, and we'll kind of start here. I'm going to get into all the marketing stuff later, but I guess we're gatekeepers of hope. We're gatekeepers of hope. And as a speaker, as somebody that publicly speaks in whatever capacity, you are a gatekeeper to somebody's hope. And hope is not knowing the destination specifically from point A to point B, but it's knowing that there is a point B, right? So what we've got to do is help people continually crystallize their point B wherever they want to go. And so, yeah, that's the word of wisdom that I would add.
And I just want to add one more comment to the conversation. I think there's a plethora of insight as it relates to public speaking, but one of the greatest words of wisdom that I ever received was this, is that if you are nervous, you're paying too much attention to yourself and not enough attention to your audience. Because if you really care about your audience, if you really love your audience, all the fear and all the stress will go away because you'll know how important that message is for the people that you're delivering the message to. So that is my word of wisdom as it relates to speaking. And there's so much more that we're getting ready to talk about. I'm telling you, we're getting ready to get into this thing. And we're going to talk about public speaking. We're going to begin with the public speaking track first. And this is my first question. And we'll start with you, Jane, then we'll move through. My question is this. If someone wants to be a better public speaker. Now, I know, Jane, a lot of times when we're on Clubhouse, you always talk about your greatest marketing tool is your speech. Literally, your speech is your greatest asset. So I figured I would start with you and we'll move through the rest of the panel. My first question is this. If someone wanted to be a better public speaker, what are 3 specific things that you would encourage them to work on? And after Jane, it can go through the rest of the panel. It's on you, Jane. Let's go.
Well, I think that maybe just thinking about it in terms of stories can be incredibly helpful. I think when you first start thinking about being a public speaker, you are kind of in teaching mode. So think about teaching and stories and then weaving them together. You teach a point and then you tell a story. You teach a point and then you tell a story, and you have an opening and a closing story on your speech. When you start to think in terms of stories, I think that makes a huge difference in terms of leveling up. People do not remember point number 3, but they will remember that story about you on the beach with your son and something happened, right? So think in stories. That's one thing. The next thing is that you don't have to do it all in one speech. I think it's often that people try to put too much. They are asking their speech to work too hard for them. Think about, kind of one key idea and just keep coming back to that same idea again and again and again. I have an amazing client, Annie Meehan, and she can speak on many, many, many different topics. So we've got her narrowed down to kind of hope being the center of everything that she does. And that has given her so much focus. So now the stories are hopeful stories. She's a motivational speaker. It all comes back to hope. So think about how you can have everything kind of point out into one thing.
Definitely love what Jane said. I would say is preparation and understanding that it's just communication. I think whenever, the stories or the cliches, people are afraid or what have you, but none of us are afraid to communicate. And so in order for you to become a better anything, you have to continually do it. Now, you're not always going to have a platform or a stage, but this sounds super corny, but I did it all of my youth because I wanted to play pro basketball. That's what I wanted to do. So I would look at the interviews after the games and I would say, his interview's horrible or he's really good. And so I was like, they probably practiced the interview. So I would be in my mirror. I'd be like, hey, Odell, it was a good game. What? Well, it was very, so I would do all that stuff over and over again for years because I thought I was training to be a professional basketball player. So for those of you that want to be public speakers, like, it's going to sound crazy, talk to yourself, like speak, actually communicate out loud because words are hard and it's difficult to articulate. And I know everybody on the panel can relate to this. Sometimes when you talk to yourself is the best conversation that you had in a long time when you talk to yourself. So that's what I would add to it. Just a little thing like when you go to the mirror, like, you look good today, Odell. I do look, that's right. I do look good. You look good. Now, so that's what I like to add. I'm Odell and I'm done speaking. Wait, it's not Clubhouse.
I love it.
I'll do that anyway.
Yeah. Odell,
I
you do
love
look
it.
good
I love
today,
it.
brother.
Ernesto, man, please share.
First, shout out to all my Michigan folks. I feel like I'm at home. I was actually born in Michigan, graduated from Eastern Michigan, and I worked for the University of Michigan. So I saw Ypsi and Ann Arbor in the house. So shout out to y'all. So let me practice what Jane is teaching us. When I worked at the University of Michigan in higher ed, my dean that I worked for at the graduate school, the Dean Lewis, he asked, Ernesto, if you could do anything, any job, what would you do? And I was like, I took the rough path to get to higher ed and to actually complete my degree, first gen and all that stuff. I think maybe trying to help other students do better than I did, take advantage of the resources, stuff like that. He's like, all right, so what's the biggest challenge in you making this happen? I said, besides the speaking to them, I'm solid because the speaking freaks me out. I get nervous, I cry, I break down. I'm a mess. So he's like, all right, let me help you out. Get your notebook. All right, got my notebook ready to go. Here's what you need to do, Ernesto. Go do it. I was like, is there going to be any more lessons to this or any more notes? Because all I have is go do it. And when he told me, I was like, this was the dumbest meeting I've ever had. Like, seriously, go do it out of all this. And like, he's asking me from like my dreams, my aspirations. Well, 18 years later or so, he couldn't have been more accurate and spot on because I had to follow one of the best speakers that I've ever worked with in my entire life to start off my speaking career. And to say I was trash is going to be nice to myself. But by doing it, practicing, getting out there more, I improved. And let me expand on that. For those of you that want to improve your public speaking skills, I'm all about studying, reading, watching, but nothing is going to be doing if that's all if you're just studying, reading, watching, it's not going to work because you need to feel that pressure from the heckler. You need your PowerPoint, your Prezi to go out. You need the mic to go out. You need the lights to go out. You need the fire alarm going off. You need to experience that so you know how to react. No one is writing a book on all those things. Trust me, they might mention some, but actually doing it. So actually doing it is one. And two, this is something that you're going to hear from me over and over again. So I'm sorry in advance. How are you differentiating from everybody else that's saying and doing the same thing? Are you starting differently? Are you dressing differently? Is your presentation different? I'm that crazy person that will start a presentation sitting in the back of the room with students. I am that weirdo that sits in the front before the presentation starts as they're introducing me, asking the students, yo, so what's this event about? I don't know. I'm like, it's probably something stupid, huh? Yeah. I'm like, you probably got another one of those lame speakers that because I did it, you can do it. Yeah, probably. And I was like, man, this sucks. I'm out. And as they're introducing me, I get up. I'm like, hey, do you like to dance or sing? And they're like, dance, why? I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I just wanted to know. I'm gonna go up there and do a speech real quick. They're like, what? No, I don't like either. And that in itself put the student like this, like, I'm gonna be good. Like, I'm gonna pay attention. I don't want to be called up there for anything. So be different. Those are just examples.
And real quick, Ernest, I know you mentioned like when you first started, you had to follow up the best speaker that you ever heard in your life. Listen, you were pretty good, man. Don't be so hard on yourself. You were amazing still, even if
Still, huh?
it definitely wasn't me, folks. Just so we're clear, this is just me being silly. But I love those. Everything everyone said is absolutely amazing. I'm just going to offer this. Be willing to engage, entertain, and educate. Think about the best teacher you've ever. Some of the smartest teachers I've ever had weren't the best teachers. They were so busy trying to show how smart they were. They didn't meet people where they were to take you with them along the journey. So it's amazing what Jane mentioned about the storytelling and how important that is, because you want folks to be able to almost see what it is that you're talking them through. And I know some folks think, well, I don't dance, I don't sing. That's not what being entertaining is. If you can be interesting, you can be entertaining. If you've been somewhere, done something, heard something that no one else has ever done, heard, or said, well, then now you're entertaining. That gets them to lean in. So be willing to, again, engage, be willing to entertain, be willing to educate in a way that you wish someone would educate you.
You all reminded me of two other points that I wanted to make just real quick. One, don't be scared to fail, because if you are, you're not going to grow. Some of my biggest mistakes made me good at what I do now. And that's important for us to be aware of and to understand. And two, you're going to have to get out of your comfort zone. I mean, you just have to. If not, then you're going to stay comfortable and you're not going to grow. That's it.
That's so true. And I love how you said innovation and out the box. I think that's even more important as it relates to even being a virtual speaker, a hybrid speaker, or obviously a public speaker as well. And you led me into my next question really greatly, Ernesto. So I'm going to start with you, Stan. And I think this is always important, is the preparation. What do you do to prepare? What is your process? And I've shared this a lot on Clubhouse, but when you're getting ready to do a presentation, what does that look like from scratch? So if someone was here right now and they're listening and they're like, you know what, next week I got to do a presentation. Next week I got to do a sales presentation. I'm trying to put together that next keynote that is going to enable me to change the world. As you begin to think, as you begin to innovate, as you begin to create, what is your process to create that speech that is life-changing and transformational? And I say that with all of you because everyone here has been speaking for more than a decade professionally, as well as Jane is 25 years as far as coaching speakers. So you've dealt with transformational speeches. You've seen life-changing. You've seen people's lives change. You're living it. So what is your process in order to create that keynote that just changes lives and literally has people crying, for that matter?
That's powerful. That gave me chills, especially when we all know what that's like when you see the light bulb click for folks. And when I'm willing to be the most transparent, the most humble, the most forgiving, and that's even myself. And when I'm talking to myself, some of the times I've been most moved is when I was talking to someone and that was the person that I had not talked to in a long time. And that was the inside of myself, that in the eyeballs that saw me, they felt it. So in preparing that, I think, okay, I've had some experience. I've had experiences that other people have had. What experiences bring us together? I've said, our differences shouldn't divide us. And just because I'm different doesn't mean there's something wrong with me. Okay. Well, now we've all felt different at some point. And how can I connect dots for other folks? And that's been the one thing, just understanding that we're all different and being different is okay. But how can I help someone along their emotional roller coaster? And so that has been, in terms of, the preparation is really getting to the core, like what's happening, how are people feeling? Because ultimately we're all feeling the same, but we express it in different ways. And to get to that, again, it might be music that I want, because I don't want to be like, all right, now it's time to prepare and let me feel it. I don't even want to go into it that way. So maybe it's some good music, again, that gets me going. And then me getting to me getting to that level point where I'm calm, I'm alert, and then I'm ready to execute. Hope that answers.
The word know, as in KNOW, know your subject, know your audience, know your venue, and know your backup plan, because something's probably going to happen. Those are key. But for in-person, so you don't sound prepackaged and like it's the same thing as every other campus you've been on, know and learn how to read and react to your audience. Don't just come in with the same prepackaged speech. Here are my slides. I have a question. I'm not ready for that yet. That's at minute 50. Moving on. Do what you do and be natural. Read your audience, be different. If there's one thing that I can guarantee you about me is you will not hear the exact same speech if you hear me twice, even if it's in the same day. But that's because I've become better at reading my audiences. Now in virtual, you're not going to read them as much. For example, right now, if I can't see you, but I can read you literally in the chat, engage in that manner, ask a question, and that's the manner that you have to read virtually. So those would be my knows, your subject, your audience, your venue, your backup plan. And then like I said, you have to learn how to read to get better. Those that are great at reading do phenomenal. One of my tips that I suggest to my team, and everybody freaks out when I do, I figure out how I'm going to start and maybe even how I'm going to close as I'm walking up onto the stage, because I spoke to my audience before I even started. I worked that audience in the back to find out why they were there. I asked the client what's something that they're going through right now. And I have to process all that like that and get on the stage. Some people struggle with that because well, that wasn't in my notes for minute 13. So, maybe next time. So those are just some of the suggestions.
One of the things for the people who really just want to learn how to get out and do a presentation, I used to work for an Olympic athlete, and one of the key things that he did in his training was right before he went on, he would breathe. He said that when the oxygen deprivation happens and you don't do well on stage, it's because you haven't taken deep breaths and your brain didn't get enough oxygen, and then you couldn't think as clearly as you might have had you taken your breaths. So take some deep, long, slow breaths before you go on, especially in a high stakes presentation. You would find me backstage walking around, just breathing. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, Stan mentioned about ego and being humble. And one of the things that you can do to prepare is find out and make other people the heroes of your stories. Okay, so this might be Ernesto sitting in the back and somebody becomes a story and the hero of a story because of some research he's done in the back row on the morning of. Or it might be that you've called up a few people ahead of time. Even if you're giving a toast at a wedding, this is possible. It's possible to make other people the heroes of your story. So if you have a point to make, figure out someone who really illustrates that point nicely. And I think when you make the audience your heroes, it's gold. Thank you.
So Ernesto, first of all, the reading the room, when people say stuff like that, it's not that difficult, right? Like it's not that. I think a lot of times you're like, oh, well, what exactly should I say? It's like, just be yourself, like talk to them. We talked about authenticity and all that stuff. Like just do that. And it's a lot simpler than you think. As far as preparation, if you're like watching this and you're saying, I've never even given a professional talk, let alone like I barely speak up at work or whatever. I think the biggest thing, and I want to use a couple quotes, Ben Franklin, repetition is the mother of learning. Like you have to repeatedly do these things. You got to repeatedly read words of wisdom that make sense to you repeatedly over and over and over again, because whatever you're full of will spill out of you. So when you come up to a presentation, maybe it's for work or maybe you're on a date. I don't know what it is. Whatever it is, whatever you're full of is going to spill out. And so one thing I do, taking a step further, as far as preparing for speeches, like I know in different seasons, I know I'm going to be doing, 6, 8, 9 speeches in a month. All right, cool. So the month before, I'm overdosing on different speakers that I like, different podcasts. I'm listening, I'm plugged in, I'm tuned in, because I might be able to pull one thing, like one quote, one thing, one quote. The thing about hope that I opened up with, I re-listened to one of my mentors' podcasts last week and got something about hope, and then remixed it and was like, oh, that Stan, stop shaking your head. That may or may not have been Stan. I don't know if it was Stan. But no, like, so whenever you do it, you become a synthesizer, a translator of whatever it is. So as it goes into you, it comes out. And so continually do that and watch other speakers. Josh, I've seen Josh live. Ernesto, I've seen him live. I've seen Stan live. We're all different, but we're all really, really good. And so it's different things. You might not be as cool as Ernesto. You might not, like, you might freak out a little bit on the inside and you might show it a little bit. So maybe you have a different type of style, but you can see what other people do. And you're like, okay, I am more of a Jim Rohn lecture where I'm just going to stand behind the podium and talk. You can do that. And so that's what I would say. Continually feed your mind, read, prepare, and watch other people do their thing.
Based off Odell said, like, don't get bored with your own delivery. Don't get bored with your own message. Like that. Well, I don't want to think about the biggest, best brands that you know of. Heck, McDonald's, like, I'm loving it. Every commercial, everything they do. Southwest Airlines, whatever brand that you like, whatever TV show that you love, there's the same intro and outro 20 seasons later. You ever seen Law and Order, SVU? Dun, dun. Every time. Do you get tired of hearing that? Nah. Matter of fact, it's like, like it's that. So think about that. They do it because it works. Find your intro, your outro, your whatever it is. Now, again, they have different episodes. That intro, outro is the same. And then just apply yourself. So again, just make sure you don't get bored with your own delivery, with your own message.
And I want to piggyback on all the wonderful points as well. And I'll give you 3 other things just to add to the already incredible notes as it relates to public speaking. I think number 1 is I like to have an outline. So for me, I always think about from a framework from the beginning all the way to the end, what that looks like and what journey am I taking the audience through. So I go from beginning to end and start to think about what my audience is going through. And again, when we deal with the outline, real simple. I have an introduction. I call it a thesis statement, 3 bullet points, and then a conclusion. Maybe it's 4, maybe it's 5 bullet points. But again, that's my standard framework, and then we work from there. The second thing that I think is really important, I think Ernesto talked about it a little bit as well as Odell, is I'm always trying to figure out what is that aha moment. And again, this is probably one of the greatest challenges for me because I'm trying to be overly prepared, but you really can't prepare for those moments. But most of the time, the aha moments are the most powerful. Those moments, like Ernesto said, when you read your audience and you start to go into that authentic space like Stan and you start to speak directly to your audience, those are power moments. And I always try my best to plan that out. Again, it's difficult, but man, those aha moments is so incredibly important. And the last thing I always like to say is evaluate and get better. Evaluate and get better. After every presentation, go back, look at your presentation, ask yourself, how can I get better? How can I improve? How can I be better the next time? I know with virtual speaking, I still have this challenge where I talk really, 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 really fast. And so as I've been doing it, I'm reflecting, I'm trying to work on slowing down and be able to paint the story and just be more effective in certain aspects of my speeches. And as Odell said, when I watch other speakers, such as I saw John Maxwell, and I'm able to grab certain things that he uses and incorporate it, that I find to be very effective. And so those are some of the jewels that I think are so incredibly important as it relates to public speaking. But we're getting ready to get to our rapid fire. Rapid fire is really simple. Each speaker is going to get 1 minute to answer the question, literally 1 minute. These are questions that many of you said that you had for the panelists before we actually created this virtual masterclass. So they're going to be 5-minute questions, and I'm going to start going through each person one by one. And so my first question is going to start with, I'm going to start with Stan. I'm going to start with Odell. Odell, this is your question. You have 1 minute to answer the question. We all know that storytelling is extremely important when it comes to public speaking. What are some simple strategies that people can incorporate immediately to tell a powerful story? Your minute starts now.
Storytelling, I would say, think of stories in your life that you might not think are remarkable, because our goal as public speakers is to connect with other people. So if you have a love story or something like that, odds are most people have a love story you can connect. If you have an embarrassment story, like, oh my gosh, I wet my pants when I was in the 3rd grade, somebody can relate to that, or they have a child that's doing it or what have you. So I would say those types of stories, they're not the, you know, the grandiose type of stories that a lot of people talk about. If you think of movies, if you think, like, most of them have the same type of arc. And so you also want people to feel something. Like, I often tell a story about how I couldn't talk to my high school crush. Y'all know that feeling, right? You're really nervous. So that's something that I would say, make sure you use emotion and make sure you use stories that are quote unquote normal. I'm Odell and I'm done.
Dan, I'm coming to you next because you are the confidence coach. You built up the self-esteem. And I was like, this is Stan's question right here. Stan, how do you overcome anxiety and imposter syndrome as a speaker? Your time starts now.
I feel like you're rigging the game because I'm about to crush this. And I think it's important to make sure you're willing to breathe, willing to breathe. But beyond that, make sure that you're prepared in the way I tell folks, have 3 or 5 points that you want to visit, and then don't deviate. In writing, if you watch TV, you see some great shows. What's greater than the show? The person who wrote the episode. And then the actor, what do? They stick to the script. And the great thing about this is you are able to write your own script and then deliver it without deviating. Whether you're at work, in a presentation, delivering a keynote, if you are willing to write your script, again, I'll say 1 point, 3 points, 5 points, and stick to them. Think about how we think: morning, noon, and night, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There's 5 days of the week. That's how I identify. And then that'll help you remember these points and then know what you can go back to if for whatever reason you forget something. Think 3 5s. Thank you.
Jane, we're coming to you. New speaker, what would you tell them to work on first as they're creating their keynote presentation?
I think I would probably use the super simple speech formula and help them just map it out. So this is the super simple speech formula. Write this down, everybody, because it's really important. No, it's not that important. It's opening story, point 1, point 2, point 3, closing story. That is your super simple speech story. Where people mostly miss is on the closing story. They just let their thing end, wah, wah, wah. We really want to have a powerful opening and a strong closing. Super simple speech formula.
Ernesto, how do you create a creative and out-the-box presentation? What do you think about? How do you create that? Ernesto, you have 1 minute. Time starts now.
All right. I feel like I'm going to lose this game show right now. But anyway, so one of the things that I would recommend to you is play to your strengths. When you see someone that's really funny, don't be like, oh, okay, I'm going to start off with a joke. Why did the chicken cross the road? Okay, you really shouldn't have started off with a joke, okay? Play to your strengths, number 1. 2, you've been studying something that you want to do. So you've seen other speakers, you've seen how they start, you see how they close. Do something different. Don't just copy what you've seen and don't say, well, I'm going to tweak it a little bit. Now it's different. No, do something completely different. Be creative in how you start, what you do, what you say, the interaction. I had somebody tell me the other day, the best compliment ever. That wasn't really like a speech though. That was more like a workshop. It was really cool though. Okay. Did you like it? All right, we're good then, right? So be different. And that, I think, I told you earlier, that's the main key. Be different and think way outside of the box by challenging yourself and your audience.
Awesome. Can we give it up for Ernesto in virtual land? Thank you so much, Ernesto. You made it in 1 minute. Again, we're getting ready to move to the second part of this conversation. But before we go there, I'm going to give you a minute commercial. It's just 1 minute. I promise you, don't turn off the virtual masterclass. It's 1 minute. This is what I'm going to tell you. So here today, we have incredible speakers. We have incredible coaches and incredible programs. And so what I did to make your life easier is there is a link, and Mike is going to put the link right now in the chat box. And if you click on the link, this is what you get to do. You get to go into this Google Docs, and you get to ask yourself the question, do I want to be a part of Jane's speaker launch program and learn how to be a public speaker? Or better yet, do I know someone that could benefit from Jan's program or benefit from Jan's book? Secondly, Odell and Stan are not only speaker coaches, but they have an incredible program called NAMCA, where they give speakers the opportunity to showcase their talents. They have incredible stuff going on. So all you have to do is say, I want that stuff from Odell and Stan. You check it off, and I promise you, not only am I going to get the information to you, but I promise you they may call you tomorrow for all I know, but they got information as well. And then if you're looking for a speaker, again, we're all speakers. We've been speaking for more than, I think collectively, maybe almost 100 years. I don't know, I'm not, maybe I'm going a little high. We'll say 50 years to be safe, collectively together. And you have the opportunity to bring a speaker to your campus. If that interests you, you can do that as well. And so I wanted to make this available for you so you can have a resource, because it's one thing to hear us speak, but it's another thing to get connected to people not only that can coach you, but can provide you with more resources, information that can enable you not only to become a better speaker, but ultimately for those that have a message to change the world, that as well. So that's my 1 minute commercial. We're going to get right back into the discussion, and we're going to move on to part two. And part two is going to be about how do I become a public speaker? Now, again, I saw the poll, and I know only about 6% of people said, you know what, I'm only here to become a public speaker. The rest of you want to increase your public speaking skills. But you know what I discovered? Some of you may not even know, but there may be a business inside of you right now. You may be an exceptional speaker and not even know that it's possible that not only can you change lives, but people will pay you for your gift. If I'm miscorrected, some of you may be doing presentations already where like your colleagues are like, man, that was amazing. You knocked it out the park. And you may not realize that same gift may enable you to start your own business. Could you imagine if you got to leave your job? Because I know some of y'all don't like your job, you're just working, but you got to leave your job and actually do what you love and are gifted every single day. So although only a few of you said you're here for the speaking business, I want to encourage you to lock in, because for all you know, there may be a business, there may be a destiny, but more importantly, there may be millions of people that need to hear your message. And the only way you can get out and reach those millions is to leave your job and to begin your speaking business. So ultimately, we're doing one of two things. We're helping some that want to get it started right now. And then there's others that don't even know the dream is there. But at some point, you're going to be like, man, I heard these speakers. I was on this virtual masterclass. I wasn't even thinking about it, but they sowed the seed that 1 year later, I'm so glad I was there. So we're going to jump right into it. I'm not going to waste any time. Again, all of us have been professional speakers for quite some time. And I'm going to start with Jane, and I'm going to start with Odell, and then Stan and Ernesto. I'll move on to the next question with y'all. But I'm going to start with you, Stan, Jane, and Odell. Professional speaker, launching a speaker's business. What are the top 3 things that you tell your clients or you tell people that desire to become a professional speaker? Whoever wants to go first, take it away.
All right. Well, we have a formula called Ready, Aim, Fire. And so this is the formula basically for getting started down the path of a professional speaking career. In the Ready section, you get crystal clear on what you're selling and you pick a lane. Picking a lane is important. You don't want to be the jack of all trades. You want to be the master of one. Okay. So we pick a lane. We get really, really crystal clear on how we're going to help solve a problem. That's in the Ready stage. Then we check that box. We move into Aim. And in the Aim stage, we develop marketing materials. And in most cases, it's a website. And the website has that same clarity. I know within 5 seconds of arriving at your website how you're going to help me as a professional speaker. And then and only then we go into fire, and that's where we roll it out to our target market. So we have this ready, aim, fire process. A lot of people want to start talking to people and firing before they take ready and get aimed. And so it's really important that you have the groundwork made before you start firing.
I'm going to speak to the person that Josh said, which is a lot of people that are on this that are like, I don't really know if I want to be a professional talker person. Here's the thing, you're going to do it anyway. And the people that lead the charge in any industry, that lead the charge in any cause, are the ones that know how to clearly articulate what's going on inside of their brain and in their heart to other people to help move their brains and their hearts. Shakespeare said that my best is making old words sound new. I think that our best is making sure that we're blazing the trail for people that can't do what we did, and what they feel that they can do. And so we have to communicate to them communication. So if you are the one that can speak clearly, then you're the one that's going to be able to help other people. When you think about your children, you think about school, it's like the ones that speak up, they're the ones that help the ones that can't speak up. And so if you have an inclination inside of you, the skill of public speaking, the skill to be able to articulate and elocute your thoughts, it's going to change every aspect of your life. Trust me. So I would say that really plug in on that. You're going to communicate anyway, as long as you can. So for those of you that are looking to be professional speakers, I would say this, and this is something that I think a lot of people do anyway. I know I did it when I first started. I think Google was like kind of new. So I didn't even use Google, but I wanted to be a speaker. And so my dad was like, well, you should look up. He said, you should look up Black college speakers. Like, that's what he said. You should look up Black college speakers. And so I went and internet searched, and some names popped up, like Delatoro McNeil, Les Brown, like those. And so I started researching. And so if you're like, I think I want to do this, I'm not sure, start researching. And here's just a couple of things you should research. Research who is doing something similar to what you're doing. And so if you're here, start your research here, right? You're already here. So start your research here. And then this is another part you should research. What problems are people paying to solve already? How do you find that out? By seeing what people like us actually talk about, because that's what people are paying. They're not paying because I'm handsome. I mean, maybe a part of them, some of them are, I don't know what's in their hearts, but they're not paying because I'm handsome. They're not paying Ernesto because he's got a head full of luscious locks. They're not paying just for that stuff. They're paying because, there is a problem, an issue in my company that's going on that maybe this different voice can help us with, right? So start looking at that, and what you'll find initially, I'm talking before you start paying coaches, before you start, doing all these things, first, like, figure it out. Like, okay, I think maybe I could go here. And so you have a better time, so that when you meet somebody like Jane and when you pay her, then it's easier for everybody. It's easier for her. It's like, I've been looking at this for a little bit. I've been following Josh Fredenburg. I've been following Ernesto Mejia. I've been following Stan Pearson II. Like, so I kind of know. And then somebody like that can help further take you down the road you need to go. I'm Odell, and I'm done.
Stan and Ernesto, I'm going to come to you real quick, and I want to flip the script on another question. My question is this: what is the greatest challenge that you've identified in public speakers or professional speakers or those that want to be speakers that they make that holds them back from making their dream or getting their message out there to make an impact?
Believing in others more than they believe in themselves. That's it. Believing in others more than they believe in themselves is the number one reason why, heck, collectively people don't get to where they want to go. But certainly in the speaking game, you'll see someone that's, again, you might be watching us, but it took work. We binge watch people who are successful. And then we go, okay, then you use that as, your roadmap, which is really important. Not thinking that they think about this. Now, money isn't everything, but we know that, this is not an opinion. Most issues that we face in this world, in this country, are related to money or economics in some way, shape, or form. But sometimes, I don't want to do it because I don't want to get paid for it. Okay. Well, then, if that's true, and you're already going to be doing it, to Odell's point earlier, then when you're good, when you solve a problem, people are going to want to pay you. And that's okay. We villainize money. However, you have an opportunity to help. Because I just said most problems that we have in this world, and this cannot really be debated, are connected to economics that help shift everything else. So then take said economics in which you've gained through your amazing skill of helping solve problems, then help solve problems with said money or said resources. That's how we continue to move the needle. So again, number one is people believe in others more than they believe in themselves. And they believe in number two, maybe in a close second, like getting paid for something that they're great at, that there's something wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having a message, helping people shift, change, alter their life, and then receiving that money and then doing something with it for yourself or for others. Imagine how many people you can help if you had more resources to help with.
So I'm not trying to contradict my man Stan, all right? So let's not start a battle here. However, don't look at it through the money lens. You met a speaker. How much did you make? Oh, okay, I'm starting this next month. Well, first of all, you ain't ever spoke to nobody. Let's start there. Second of all, why would I pay you anything if you have no experience? So don't look at it through the money lens. This is a motto for Cool Speak in our organization. If you're in it for the money, feel free to shop elsewhere. This isn't your house. We're not going to be a fit for you. If you're in it to make a difference, to make an impact, and are willing to do more than a few freebies to give back, then I believe you. The other thing, that would be the first one. And the second one is, again, it goes back to the same core problem sometimes, the money. And Jane touched upon this. Don't answer the call and say you can do anything. Hey, do you talk to dogs? Yeah. How much? What's your budget? For sure. Yeah, I'm in. I don't have a pet and I hate dogs, but yeah, I'll come up with something. I use this thing called Google to research. I got you. I'll read a book. No. Go to your strength, something that you're good at, something you want to make a difference with. Stan and Odell and Josh have heard me say this often. I'm bilingual and I do a lot of work with parents in Spanish. And I'm pretty confident in it. And I know that there's more than enough work for everybody in it. So I don't feel the need to do everything that requires a bilingual speaker. Parents and students are my lanes, more so parents even than students. So while there's other opportunities there, I try to stick to my lane. And I beat this story like a dead horse all the time. Damon John has said this and it stuck with me forever when he was talking about, when I started FUBU a few years later, this guy started this company called Under Armour. And all he had was a shirt because he was a football player and he just wanted to absorb the sweat and stay cool. Meanwhile, I started to have some success. So I was making socks, hats, clothes, jackets, everything. This dude had a shirt and he just kept on improving the shirt. And all he wanted to do was stick with the shirt. Well, FUBU isn't necessarily around. There's more, success because of it. This Under Armour dude, now he makes everything. And anything he makes sells. Golf apparel, baseball apparel, football apparel, soccer apparel. But he started off with one thing. And once you become known for that one thing, it'll open up other lanes. There you have it.
As you were talking, this just really came to my heart. And I think this is going to help people just in general in life. But I think it's really important to really stay in your passion lane. Stay in that place that fires you up. That place where when you wake up, man, I'm just ready to go. And the truth be told, to be honest with you, even as a speaker, you can get into a place where you lose the fire and you just going through the motions. It's a reality. There could be moments where you're getting ready to get on an airplane. I don't feel like getting on an airplane. I want to stay home. I don't feel like getting in front of the audience. And what can happen is just like in a 9-to-5, it can become a job versus what I like to call a calling or a purpose. And so you want to stay in your calling. You want to stay in your purpose. And what I've discovered is this, is that if I can stay in my calling, stay in my purpose, and stay in the lane that lights my fire, that pumps me up. To be honest, Ernesto, I know for a fact that alcohol and prevention, there's tons of money there. I know for a fact right now, when it comes to what's the other one I want to talk about? There's another topic. Oh, no. Oh, hazing and prevention.
Oh.
Right. Hazing and prevention. I know that there's so much money there, and I know you can get paid so much money. I ain't talking about it. It doesn't drive me. It doesn't motivate me. It doesn't wake me up. As a matter of fact, I may actually get bored no matter how much you pay me. Not to say it's not important, because it's very important, and all messages are important. But what drives me when I get to get into an audience and I'm getting ready to fire some leaders up to go out and change the world, when I'm getting ready to help people learn how to get rid of the biases and the racism and all the other stuff, isms that try to hold us back from reaching. Now that fires me up. Like I get lit when it comes to those programs. And so I would just encourage people, stay in your fire zone, stay in the place that gets you passion. And to be honest with you, if you're going to do anything for several years, you got to go back and reevaluate. And you got to ask yourself a simple question like, do I really want to talk about this? Do I really want to pursue this? Does this really matter to me? Because what I've discovered is this. I've discovered that we evolve, that we grow, and that different seasons, different challenges, culture changes, and things begin to shift. And I often say, are you willing to shift your message or shift to certain areas you may be shifted to in order to make the impact you desire to make? And if you have that fire lit, and you have that passion lit, I'm telling you right now, ain't nothing stopping you. I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't care how many people reject you. I don't care, how many people say they don't want you to speak because the color of your skin does happen. I don't care how many people say, I don't want you to speak because you're a woman. Whatever. I don't care what comes your way. If the fire is lit, you're going to do whatever you got to do to get to where you got to get to. And even when you got to do what I like to say, the boring stuff, when the passion is lit, you're going to do it. I want to move to this next question real quick. And I'm looking at time, man. We've already been for about 65 minutes. I want to move to this next question. Virtual presentations. And again, I know we're moving around with the questions, but I want to go to these virtual presentations because truth be told, COVID shifted everything, not only for people that are doing presentations and meetings, but just in general, as far as presentations, it shifted everything. So I want to ask each of you, as you have shifted doing a variety of virtual presentations, heck, we're virtual right now. What have been some key adjustments that you've had to make in order to upgrade your virtual presentation? But more importantly, what did you have to take away that you do in person and had to add in virtual presentations in order for it to be more effective? And I'm going to open it up to the platform. Whoever wants to share, please take it away.
With virtual, one thing that was kind of clear for me is not making sure that you are seen and heard. You know what I'm saying? Making sure that you're seen and heard. And so, like, depending on what type of presentation I'm doing, I'll add things in there and all that. Like, I'll add the bells and whistles and stuff like that. But if you're just starting, and like many of us were last year on a regular basis, just making sure that you are seen and you are heard more than likely. That is the big thing. I think some people, and like the experience that Josh has put together, I know that it took time, right? Like, it took time for you to get to a place where you were like, all right, I have the type of equipment, yada, yada, yada. And so I would say, make sure that you're seen and heard. And the last thing is make sure that you a little bit, and this is just what I've seen, an adjustment that I have to do. I'm actually a little more low key. I'm not as low key as Ernesto, but I'm kind of like a little bit high. Like, I'm not as high as Josh or Stan, but but for virtual, just like, the camera adds, however, like, it takes away some of your energy. So you kind of have to make sure that you're very intentional with the energy. You don't have to yell or anything like that. So for me, those are the biggest adjustments, making sure that I was seen and heard, and then also making sure that I dialed the energy up a little higher than just in person. I'm Odell, and I'm done.
It's all going through the little tiny lens, and we have to put on a show on that lens. And Where I think we are now, a year and a half into this, is a lot of my clients are leveling up their virtual. So think about getting some good equipment. And the most important piece of equipment, I think number one is actually the mic, and number two is the camera. Now I say that, but I actually don't have my Yeti mic. I'm working from my cottage this month, and so I actually don't have my Yeti mic here. And so I'm not demonstrating that very well right now. Apologies for that. But the second thing is just all you really need to do behind you is make it look nice. Make it look nice. Ernesto had a bookshelf likely that was full of books, and he recognized that he needed to take away some books and just give it a little bit more cleaner look. And that works really, really well. Think about how you can just have something that is visually appealing. I just talked to a woman this afternoon who had all these boards going sideways with all these different sayings on them. And then she had a really busy chair. And I just wanted to say, get rid of all of it. Get a white sheet would do a better job. You are making people work too hard to try to figure out what you're all about. And so keep it simple when it comes to your background. Really focus down that lens. That's the really most important thing. I am in on a new invention that is a little tiny lens that comes down and sits halfway down your screen. It's a Kickstarter, and I can't wait for it to come. And it's not here yet, but I'm very excited about that because I'm always just a little off. Like this, the lens is just a little high for me. And so I need this one to just come right down to the middle, and then I'm talking right to you. So just a couple of things.
A few things. Thanks, Dan. One, you may see me in person pretty soon like this and my workout shorts at the bottom just to prove a point. Because you know what? Now I know what all those, news anchors and sports center folks are like. No wonder they look so comfortable. I was like, I left higher ed because I don't want to wear a jacket, shirt, and tie. Well, what y'all don't know is a side note, much more than you need to know. I'll still put my J's on every now and then because I believe it gives me my superpowers I need when I speak. I feel that's part of me. So I do. And other times, I might just have my slides on. But one of the things that I'd recommend and suggest that the differences and changes, the 7% rule. Your 55% is body language, 38% is tonality. Well, that plays an even bigger factor now. And what Jane's saying too is true, that looking into the camera, I love speaking to audiences, and my current record, if you will, for largest audience is 7,000 people. You can put one person with a camera in front of me and I'm like, look at the camera. Can you just move it with my head? Like, it's uncomfortable. It's not natural to me, but I had to learn. So the other thing too, if I speak in person, you're not going to see a lot of bells and whistles, specific music, lighting, a bunch of slides. You're going to see me, maybe a couple slides. For virtual, we do need to up our game. So I up my game with my eCam. That's one of the ways that I up my game in the virtual world. However, I'm still going to go back to basics, and I might be old school. I don't care if you have all the bells and whistles, the technology, and you spent $10,000 on your new technology. If what you're delivering still sucks, it'll be entertaining for the first minute. Oh, look at that light. Okay, cool. And we're back to nothing. Like, okay, whatever. And Josh saw me and he gave me the best compliment. I did one of his events. He's like, yo, Ernesto did this thing where they started memorizing words. Like, it was all weird. I didn't know what was going on, but he tied it into his story. They were all excited. Then they started crying. Then they started laughing. And Leslie, I know you asked, and you're not going to be as shocked or surprised. I did my keynote. I told my true story. I spoke from the heart, and I taught students 15 words in about 7 minutes to show how intelligent they actually are. And I tied it into my story with some jokes in between. That's literally what I did. But nothing beats when you speak from the heart. There's a reason on America's Got Talent, all these shows. And next up, we have this singer. Let me tell you how his life has been difficult first, though. Now it's like, I don't even know if he can sing, but I want the dude to win, man. Like, that's because every memory that we have is attached to an emotion. And if you can evoke some sort of emotion, then you're winning. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, remember your first kiss, remember the first funeral. I'm going to age myself. Remember 9/11. You can't remember what you did 9/11 of last year, but you remember the other 9/11 because of the emotion. So keep those things in mind because that's what matters. The number one compliment I get on my speaking, yo, you were real, bro. I was like, well, I don't know what kind of speakers y'all have before me, but yeah, I kind of think they should all be real, don't you? Yeah, but no, you were real. You kept it real. Well, good. Keep it real, in person or virtual.
And absolutely amazing, the being real part. And you feel better. Again, all speakers were supposed to talk about being authentic, and I've heard some inauthentic speakers before. Like they made me like not even want to know them as a person or say good job because it wasn't. I don't want to lie to anybody. I just rather never speak to you again. That's just how I roll. So I'll say like in terms of slides, the one thing that I would, to Ernesto's point, like when I showed up, maybe I played some music, but that was it. Like first time I ever did slides with regularity was when the pandemic happened. Period. And I was like, oh snap. And I started doing some Prezi stuff. Thought I was fancy then. But because I had been intimidated by Prezi for years, and I'm no Prezi savant. Templates are amazing, full disclosure. But like just people want to do that, it kind of changed the game. But beyond that, to Ernesto's point again, like strip your talk down to the bare bones of your words, and that will determine how good you are. If you can be great when there's nothing but you, then you're great. But if it's, oh no, I've seen this. I've seen people pay thousands of dollars to showcase places and their slides or the computer wouldn't work and they were dead in the water. It is nothing more painful. It's really not funny, but it's painful. We've all seen painful things, but that's part of it. Like, it's happened to me before where it's like, oh, it's not working. All right, cool. Let's just go. That's what we need to be. It should be an ornament on a tree. You know what I'm saying? That's it. Like it's a decoration. Like each and every one of you all here right now, you're beautiful already. If you decide to put on some earrings, some lipstick, some whatever it is you decide, whatever accessory or ring you decide to put on, that's just extra. You are already you, and that is what your talk should facilitate.
I mean, there's so much talk about when it comes to virtual speaking. I would just say have a growth mindset. And when I deal with the growth mindset, it's really simple. You're always trying to get better every single day. And I think that's really what it is when it comes to virtual speaking. When I first did my presentation, I share this story all the time. I was speaking and my audio was messed up. And I'm up here, I'm going hard. So y'all, I'm going like, I'm at it, I'm sweating, I'm speaking, they're texting me, I'm not even seeing my phone. And someone finally has the insight to go in the chat. Your audio sounds real bad. Like, wait, my audio? I've been speaking for 7 minutes. They couldn't hear nothing. I was like, I didn't know what to do. I was like, yo, we're going to throw it to Zoom real quick because I was doing StreamYard. I know Zoom's going to work. I just threw all this stuff off and I just gave a presentation. I felt so bad. I was like, I'm so sorry. I said, I'm going to do a free recording for you to give to your students. It was like horrific. I felt like, I've had some mistake, but I was like, that was bad. I felt like I didn't know what to say. I didn't even get rebooked. I don't know. It just wasn't working for me. And at that moment, I said, Michael, I need you. And Michael said, I'm here to help. And I've been doing this virtual producer ever since. And I've just grown. I've grown. I mean, when you see the virtual backdrop and you see the countdown and all that stuff, that was never there. It was a process of growing and getting better. And so I felt we got a good place right now when it comes to virtual presentations. But now we're going to the hybrid world. So here we go with another experience. That's a whole nother set of skill set, which is not impossible, by the way, if you have the right things in place.
The hybrid world, and you and I just had this conversation recently. When you really love what you do and you want to be good at it, you figure out a way to do it. Technology is not my thing. And that's not why I exclude it, because if I really wanted to, I'd pick it up. But this hybrid, if speaking is going to be something that you're interested in, it's going to be around and you need to learn it. And just really quickly, and this is just some pointers that I gave to Josh the other day. If you're going to do hybrid, meaning, 50 other people are virtual and 50 are in person, you better have a moderator. You better have a couple of mics. You better have a few screens if you can to show the people that are attending virtually. And these are just some things that you don't think of until you're there. But this is why I'm telling you, mistakes, messing up, challenges. Josh stepped up his game because he had a little trouble with the one. And guess what? He's not had a whole lot of trouble ever since. But just something to keep in mind, because you have to go and deliver in the manner that they're going to need. So just keep that in mind.
For me, I'll never forget, it was when I was early on. I did a lot of television production, and I was in television. And one day, I'm gonna have my own show. By the way, that's gonna happen one day. But I learned a lot as far as production and producing. And I always ask myself, like, is this ever gonna help me with the speaking? And it's crazy. 15, 18 years later, here we are, and everything I learned about TV and video and coordination, it's all here now. And so I often tell people, when you go into hybrid, learn what a television producer does, learn what a television production looks like, because really that's where we're headed, and surround yourself with experts. How do you determine which speaking topic is best for you as a professional speaker? You have 1 minute, ready, set, go.
It is the area in which you're already most comfortable in. Make it make sense. So my first one that really went boom was the salsa life. I owned a Latin dance studio. I love salsa dancing. And it was like, how can I help people grow and develop? How can I make this leadership based? So I turned salsa into supporting, acting, learning, striving, and accepting. I made it make sense for my audience, help lift them up. Also, they could be active doing it. And I didn't think outside of who I was. I'm like, what can I do that other people could enjoy where it'd be a healthy message? Anytime you're trying to create something that's outside of your wheelhouse, it's going to be more difficult. And then I did my best to deliver that message in an area that I already worked in, which was higher education. So I was already working at colleges, doing some staff development, speaking for students at leadership conferences. So I just applied the salsa life to where I was and tied that into the Am I Too Sexy brand, which taught people how to find their confidence and sexy from the inside out. That helped me get my start.
Odell, how do you get continuous business as a speaker? How do you get continuous business as a speaker? Odell, your time starts now.
Well, I would just say the warm 200. That's just kind of a number, 200 people that kind of know what you do, that like you and are aware of you. So for me, when I first started, like many people, you don't know anybody. And so I think the first thing to do, and we've been talking about authenticity and all that stuff, like just get to know people. Just get to know people that are cool, that rock with you, but that have the opportunity and the budget to book you. Just get cool with them. Josh might be booking speakers. He might not book me, but he knows Jane who could book me. So just get really, really clear on that. Just be a good person, be a good friend. If you're a good friend to somebody, then they'll hire you. So the warm 200, if you don't have 200, like I've worked with hundreds of people, and just start with 5. Start with 5 warm people, but just get connected, build those relationships, go deep, don't necessarily go wide.
Jane, I'm coming to you. Here's the question. How do you determine your speaker rate? Say it again. How do you determine how much you should be paid as a speaker?
I love talking about money. Yes. Okay. So in the Wealthy Speaker 2.0, we talk about kind of $1,500 is when you're actually in the game as a pro. It's an arbitrary number. Of course it is. You could charge $500 and still be a pro, but 15 is kind of your starting point. There are a lot of people who come into my world from big jobs. We will adjust their starting rate based on what they've done. So there's a lot of things that come into play in terms of deciding on your rate. I would ask some experts. Hello, panel here. This is what I've done. How much should I charge? You might base it on how many times you've given the presentation. Maybe you've been given it for free for 20 years. That might put you out at a bigger starting rate.
What is a professional speaker?
Ooh, man, you asked the most unprofessional person the most difficult question. All right, so it really depends, and everything's always open for interpretation. Typically, what makes a professional speaker? You get paid enough to make that your only job if you choose to do so. Because some people are professional speakers and they just do it because they're experts in an area. But if they wanted to, they could continue just speaking, making a living off of that. So that's to me one of the main things that people consider in terms of definition. However, to me, what makes a professional speaker, someone that cares about what they're doing, someone that cares about their audience, someone that shows up early, shows up late, and follows through. That to me is a professional speaker, not how much you make. You show up early, you talk to them afterwards, you take pictures, you sign, you do whatever, hang out, eat some tacos together, because yes, I eat tacos. That's a professional speaker too.
What is one word of wisdom you want to leave everyone with before we close out? Stan, it's on you.
Effort.
Passion.
Hope. Gatekeepers of hope.
Mindset.
Well, again, we want to thank our panelists so much for taking time out of their busy schedules to be with us today. We also want to thank you that have stayed through the entire time to be part of this virtual masterclass. I don't know about you, but there were so many gems and so much value that's been dropped here today. I would encourage you to continue to connect with these incredible speakers and coaches, continue to grow, and most importantly, make sure that you are sharing your message with the world, because people need to hear what you have to say.